Hey there, podcast lovers. Are you enjoying our episodes and want to help keep the magic going? We need your support. Head over to Buy Me a Coffee and make a small donation to support our show. Your contributions help us create more amazing content, bring in exciting guests, and improve the overall podcast experience. Every little bit helps, and by donating, you become a vital part of our podcast family. Plus, we have some exclusive perks and shout-outs for our generous supporters. With your support, we can continue delivering the content you love. So if you're enjoying the show, consider buying us a coffee today. Visit buymeacoffee.com/talktomemichele and show your support. Thanks for helping us keep the show running.
Talk to me, Michele. On the street lights on the corner. City vibes got a story. Feel the beat, don't ignore me.
Welcome in, everybody. It's me, Michele, and welcome to Talk to Me, Michele. Another episode is up and running. I know I gave you guys a teaser last week. I'm going to have to stop doing that. You know why? Because I'm a Libra, and I'm indecisive at times. And I want to bring something else to the table. We'll get to the streets a little bit later, but I want to talk about this because it's a recent activity that has brought this to my attention and previous activity. And we're talking about bragging rights when you are talking about your sexual conquest and your maturity level.
Got that right, baby. That's why we got little Junior over there. Bang, 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 daddy, bang, bang.
Oh, God, I shouldn't even have to have this damn conversation, but I am. You know, I just think that you go through a phase in life where you do start first coming sexually active. And once you do, yeah, of course you're going to talk about, especially if you're male, but there are some women that do it. But at the same time, are you rubbing Bengay on your back and you still talking about how you hit it back in the day? Nobody want to hear that shit. Nobody wants to hear it. I'm just curious on why people feel the need to boast about their past sexual experiences. I don't understand it. Is this behavior reflecting maturity or insecurity? I'm going with option B. I'm going with option B. I'm going to say, I said it, yes. Oh my God, the culture of bragging. You know, people get on my nerves bragging in general, but when they start bragging about all the previous ass they've had, I'm like, dude, how old are you? Why are we discussing this? I don't want to hear it. But it is historical. You know, back in the day, sexual boasting, that's perceived as, differently across different cultures. Boasting about sexual conquest was often seen as a way for men to assert dominance, display their fertility, and also gain social status among their peers. In some cultures, it's also tied to ideas of honor and masculinity. But now we've switched up. We got some other norms that we've adapted to, and the perception of sexual boasting has shifted. Now, you hear my voice and how annoyed I am when I see and hear that type of conversation taking place among grown-ass men with gray hairs hanging out their damn nose.
Wrinkly body on top of you with his loose skin and old balls. Gross.
I think it's immature. I think it's disrespectful. I think you lack serious emotional intelligence and your self-awareness if you feel that you have to still brag on what you did back in the day in the bedroom. And most of the time, like I'm doing right now, people who see this type of behavior, you get criticized from me and among other folks, because I know I was not the only one that left the room like, what the hell just happened? Was that really taking place in there? I mean, you just question like, okay, these Negroes got canes. Like I said, they smell like Bengay. You can, all the moves you bragging and talking about right now, you can no longer do. So I'm glad you have the memories, but you don't have to verbalize it. I'm going to give you a prime example with a little story. It was a group of friends and myself, and at one point, all the guys of the evening had shifted off into another location of the house, and they were talking loud. I'm on my way to the ladies' room, and I'm listening to this conversation as I'm going to the ladies' room, and they were, doing these comparison stories. And I mean, just back and forth because the walls were thin. I go to the restroom. I'm like, okay, I still hear all this conversation. And I come back out because by the time I'm washing my hands, one guy was trying to outdo everybody with his story. And he was getting into this wild night he had in Vegas, and he had multiple partners. And I promise you, as soon as I'm coming out the hallway and I'm getting ready to pass the room, his phone rings. The phone call is from his mom. She accidentally butt dialed him and heard the whole shenanigans that he was telling his friends. And she straight bust him out. She was like, first of all, you were sick with COVID. So, so now you've embarrassed yourself. Social dynamics of these braggadocious people about sexual conquest, they do play a role. Like I said, they honor masculinity, form of respect, all that stuff. I think that kind of still has a place today. And like I said, I'm only a woman, and I'm only voicing my opinion because I'm not a man. But just from a woman's observation, I think it's caveman mentality. I'm serious. I think of Captain Caveman when you have a bunch of men that are of a particular age and they are still talking about how many of them were in the green room, how many of them hit the same piece of ass. I've heard these conversations. I'm just like, this is some bull. So in all these male-dominated social circles, they like to exchange these stories and these conquests. That is a way that they like to bond. You know how people trauma bond? I want to say sexual bond. I know men are going to get upset with me, but that's what it is. Y'all exchanging sexual stories like y'all in the boys club. All right, now I know maturity has nothing to do with this, at least from my perspective, but maturity and personal growth, I think sexual maturity should involve understanding and respecting your own sexuality and the sexuality of others. That's respect. That's recognizing the emotional aspects of social and sexual experiences. I think anybody who's sexually mature, they're going to approach intimacy with, responsibility, empathy, with a balanced perspective. You don't want to get with somebody and you've already heard them brag already or be objective. So that kind of cuts it off for me because I'm like, okay, if I do decide to sleep with you, are those the consequences I'm going to have to face? In this scenario, I do have a story to share. One of my girls went out with this guy who was known for being a ladies' man. And she knew about his reputation up front because he openly bragged about his bedroom skills. And I was curious on why she wanted to go out with him. But, she found him attractive. And thinking, sometimes you find somebody attractive, although you've had a heads up, you might vibe something different. So that's what she went on. They go out on this date, and already he's being a jerk. Like, I've had my fair share. What? You've had your fair share of what? All right. So you already, dropping indications on what you're anticipating. Or you trying to impress me because you think I'm going to go for, oh, well, you say you're good. It must be true. Needless to say, the dinner went on. The waiter came over and took their order. And he called himself being like, placing orders. You know the scene from White Chicks when Marlon Wayans went on that date with Terry Crews and he ordered oysters?
And bring us some oysters. Have you ever had oysters? Did you know oysters are an aphrodisiac? Oh, sorry. Oh, tongue is kind of big.
They're like an aphrodisiac. That's exactly what happened at that dinner that night. That's how he ordered, let me get some oysters. I heard they aphrodisiac, And, I know she was rolling her eyes at that point. The waiter comes, he brings the appetizers and the oysters and everything. He's trying to be sexual now while he's eating these oysters. I think a couple minutes went by, and it looked like, she said his face looked like it was starting to swell. And when she told me that, I only pictured Eddie Murphy and Nutty Professor about when his lips swelled up in that comedy club.
Your lip.
What?
Your lip is swollen.
My lip?
Yes.
Oh, my lip. Oh, allergic reaction. Oh.
I think that was the scenario that happened. Needless to say, the fool was allergic to oysters, trying to be a freak, and you were allergic to oysters. So now my homegirl got to go to the emergency room with him and make sure, everything good. See, this is what I'm talking about. Do not put yourself out there. And then I don't know why he would have tried anything that he's never had before, thinking it would have that effect. You don't know if you're allergic, sir, but now we know. There is a psychological perspective on sexual bragging, and it stems from a need of validation and self-esteem enhancement. People are seeking approval everywhere, so why would we not think this is a closed door in the sex department? And even it's among all just men, they're still bragging and boasting. It's like comparing cards. They're trying to be dominant. You know how you walk into the room and you've heard the term, he's a man's man. That's what they want to walk out the room as, the man's man. But this behavior also reflects a deeper psychological issue like the need for attention or unresolved sense of identity and self-worth. Because most of these people that will go online, I think they really have a low self-esteem. Because I wouldn't want to sit up there and, broadcast my personal business like that. But for some reason, that validation is needed for them. And you would think that, all of us hit a certain age bracket and you're mature enough to know, okay, I'm going to stop talking like that in public. No, it's no stop and no chill for some people. So my question is, when does this discussion stop? Because I know men still have these conversations. I just haven't seen it publicly displayed as much as I have in recent days. So how old is too old? I can't even put a number on it because everybody matures at a different stage in their life. Unfortunately, there's some that develop a little bit more maturity as they get older. And that's when they get a little kick of common sense. But I think, once you observe life, experience life, and get your own personal growth, you should be at a point where you want something deeper than just a link up. You should want something that's going to give you connection and peace. But hey, we got some people out here that are very comfortable with hopping from bed to bed and talking about it publicly. Let's get into gender perspectives. And I'm going to start with the men on why some men feel the necessity to brag in today's modern day of dating. And there's several reasons, like we said, there's validation and ego boost. Because, like I said, in the same conversation I witnessed, there were at least 2 men that slept with the same woman. And it wasn't even a problem. It was like, oh, I did that too. You did that? I was like Mr. from Color Purple.
You had it your way, I had it mine.
And then there's a cultural norm nowadays because I think it still stems from those historic times on why men feel the necessity to keep bragging about who they've been with. It still lingers in them. I think it's in the DNA. I really do. And then you got peer influence because I notice also some people don't get braggadocious until certain energy enters the room. So they view this person as competition, and whatever is going down in conversation, they have to top them. And they want that admiration. Now, I don't like it when men brag about their sexuality. How their genitalia is, what kind of skills they got. That to me says that you don't know what the hell you're doing. If you can do it or you about it, you don't have to brag about it. You don't have to announce it. So that's a red flag for me. But some people go for the okie doke and they feel that if I brag enough, that I will get some type of influence and I will also get some more booty. But then again, it could be some insecurity involved. They're bragging about their sexual past and it's covering up deeper issues they have. You know what? I will never forget that there was the movie American Beauty with Kevin Spacey. And Kevin Spacey was playing this miserable married man. And they had some new neighbors. The guy was an Army vet. He was real, straightforward. And at the end of the movie, we found out the Army vet who was against, homosexuality, that he was gay. So, people who put up a big front sometimes are trying to hide something. Now, I talked about the men, but there are some women that do the same thing. Now, that's just not me as a woman, but some women do. Some women engage about the boasting, about their sexual past for various reasons. And I think sometimes women are seeking empowerment because it's a double-sided door. Like men are allowed to be as sexual as they want to be, but women, we're supposed to be in a certain box. And women want to have sex too. I know I do. Hell, women want to feel sexually liberated and not feel bad for being a sexual being. So I think it's parts of empowerment. Validation can also take place with that, and the social influence. If you do it a little too often, it says another type of influence, but we're not going to go there. But then again, it could be a rebellion move because, boasting also serves as a form of a rebellion. We got these social expectations and restrictions regarding, female sexuality. This allows us as women to assert our freedom of our bodies and our G-spots. Now, bragging about your sex life can have consequences. We can name a few, but let's focus on personal relationships because it's going to cause trust issues. I don't want to feel like I'm going to be disrespected and objected, with these past sexual experiences. This is going to lead to feelings of insecurity and doubt about the whole relationship. Where do I stand with you if you are constantly bragging about the last piece of ass you got before we got together? And bragging also causes an emotional distance. The partners are not getting along. They're not vibing each other. It's signaling a lack of commitment to this current relationship. You're not willing to focus on mutual intimacy. You too busy living in the past, or I have to hear about your sexual past. Jealousy and insecurity may also be a reaction in reference to all these braggadocious sexual experiences. It's also affecting social perception. It can affect how others view the individual, potentially reinforcing these negative stereotypes. And that happens often because I know back when we were all young, we all knew the hot girl or the mannish ass boy back in the day. And you already know they had a body count. They ain't graduated yet and they got a body count. So it's a social perception we already had of them because we've heard so much about their sexual experiences. I had a girl back in the day. My mother did not want me hanging with this girl, and she was known for giving BJs.
Oh, you gotta give him that huck too and spit on that thing. You get me?
Y'all grown. Y'all figure it out. And I will never forget, we had a dinner party, and I had all my friends over, and she ended up coming late, and my mom served her with plastic plate and utensils. Everybody else had regular china. So it's a good thing she came late. And I promise you, when my mama gave her that shit, that plastic, everybody at the table started snickering because that's how bad her reputation was. Talking about past conquests, to me, it can really impact somebody's self-esteem. And, both a positive and in a negative way. The positive impact is validation and confidence. I'm validated. I know where I stand sexually. I'm confident in the bedroom. I'm confident with what I can do with my partner. That is the perspective of the positive impact. But there's also a negative. There's insecurity. There's social backlash. There's focus on the past. All three of those will not mix. It's like oil and water. I don't want to be feeling insecure. I got to face these people that we deal with on a regular basis, and they know all my business, or they know that you still talking about other business. So they're going to wonder what's going on with us. And I don't need to focus on the past. That's why it's called the past. You can ask yourself what bragging does. Bragging about your previous sexual experiences, I think it also roots with deeper issues. Insecurity, you need approval. You may have low self-esteem and feeling that talking about yourself in that way or others may give you some validation. You need to, do you carry out all your issues out sexually? And if you do, why are you talking about it? And then I want people to be themselves. Stop feeling like you are being pressured to talk about your sex life. It's not necessary. And bragging can be a response to these cultural and social pressures that people may have. If you don't stand on your own and you are proud to own who you are and what you are, and people try to lure you to talk about something, to feel a certain way about yourself, I don't have to validate that with you. I'm good. This week, I got some feedback from one of our listeners on the topic about bragging about sexual conquests. Here's what they had to say.
I feel like if you've had all these past experiences, you don't need to be telling them on Instagram or any other social media. You need to write a book, autobiography. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in and sharing your thoughts. I encourage all of you to call in and leave your feedback topic suggestions, or just let me know your thoughts on the podcast, you can call in at 832-463-0525. Remember, you can remain anonymous if you prefer. Your input helps make the podcast better and more engaging for everyone. So what did we learn this episode, boys and girls? We learned that bragging rights and this maturity level we're supposed to have about sexuality, first of all, it stems historically and mainly with men. Men have always found sexual conquest, talking about sexual experiences with their peers for validation, masculinity, and honor. So that was part of it, and I think it still stems in today's modern man. And the sexual maturity, and I think that would involve understanding and respecting one's own sexuality as well as others. So when you are just so careless with sex and not only, protecting yourself mentally and physically, you want to talk about it publicly. No, that's not a good thing. We also learned people boast about sexual past experience for various reasons, including the validation they need, the reinforcement of their social status, masking their insecurities, and conforming to social pressures. Again, relationships can suffer if you start bragging a little too much about past sexual quests. You can undermine the trust in your relationship, you're going to create an emotional distance, and you're leading to feelings of jealousy and insecurity in any current relationship. And the self-esteem, it can temporarily boost self-esteem. That's why they talk about it. So they're just getting that little temporary validation. And these underlying issues that people may have may reflect deeper emotional and psychological issues. The need for approval, low self-esteem, cultural pressures. Well, that's going to do it for this week. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. So join me again next week. Got some real special things brewing for you guys. And again, make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, on TikTok, on X, on Instagram, at Talk to Me Michele on everything. Also subscribe to the Instagram channel so you can take place when I have these polls and different feedback so I can let the people know what y'all thinking. So until next week, everybody, peace.
Talk to me, Michele.
Are you looking to increase your brand awareness and gain new prospects? Our audience would love to hear from you. The Talk to Me Michele podcast offers sponsor packages designed to put your brand in front of our engaged and loyal listeners. Every time we get a partnering with us means your message reaches a dedicated audience that trusts our recommendations. It's a fantastic way to build brand awareness and connect with potential customers. As our podcast continues to grow, so does your opportunity to reach more listeners. Our tailored sponsorship packages ensure you get the best value and maximum exposure. Become a sponsor today and be part of a vibrant and dynamic podcast community. Let's work together to achieve your marketing goals. Ready to get started? Email us at talktomemichele@gmail.com to learn more about our sponsorship opportunities. Thank you for considering a partnership with our podcast. We look forward to promoting your brand.